Greetings, friends of the Apocalypse. This is the Apocalypse Nerd coming to you live as much as we can from Ground Zero Studios for another edition of Podcast at Ground Zero number 6. And joining us tonight is our usual partner in crime, Adam Scott Glancy, and a special guest today we have William T. Thrasher.
Hello, hello.
Okay, tonight's episode we are going to talk about apocalyptic gaming. So we're going to cover things from card games, board games, video games, all kinds of good stuff related to the apocalypse or post-apocalyptic or pre-apocalyptic, whatever the game may be. And of course, I'll cover anything from nuclear to biological, zombies, because there's a lot of zombie games out there right now. So first, I just want to have a quick, William, can you just give us a quick introduction of who you are for our folks out there?
First, just want to say what I am. I am completely human. I am not a mutant. There are no mutants among us right now, correct?
You are not a mutant. That is correct.
Okay, good. Well, so aside from that, I'm a freelance writer, illustrator, game designer. I do an occasional tenor saxophone musician. I do a lot of different things.
You claim not to be a mutant? You claim not to be a mutant, and yet you play the tenor sax.
Sir, I shall prove to you that I am not a mutant by playing the tenor saxophone. You can probably tell by my shirt, I've done a lot of work for Skirmisher Publishing, LLC. I've also done work for Fantasy Flight Games, for Paizo. I've had a hand with. I'm involved with Red Brick and the revised FASA. I've got my fingers in a lot of gaming pies, and it's really fun. Being a part of bringing these games to life.
Cool, very good. Thank you, sir. All right, now we're going to start with our usual in the news section, and I got a couple little tidbits of in the news here today. The first thing I did come across is coming August 6, 2013. They are releasing a classic, A Boy and His Dog, on Blu-ray.
Oh.
Because if you didn't get it on Blu-ray, you're going to miss all the subtleties of Don Johnson's performance.
Oh, of course, yes, and all the, I don't know, but it is coming out on Blu-ray. Apparently, it is is remastered. They've reworked it, so we'll see. I'm just a bit of a video snob, so it's like, wow, if I could get a better quality video of a poor quality video, then I will take it. Okay.
Oh dear God.
It's actually funny you should mention A Boy and His Dog. I just completed a piece of artwork inspired by that film.
Oh, very good. Yes, Will is alluding to. Me and him are working on a little post-apocalyptic. Oh, let's go to Will here.
Here it is, The Boy and His Dog.
Oh, very nice.
William and I are working on a post-apocalyptic game based on a popular con game. I'm not going to give any more details yet till we're a little bit further along, but we're getting close to production on that. So Will has been helping me out with that, doing the artwork and ideas and getting it laid out. So it'll be a cool little thing. It'll be available for sale, but I'll pimp that once we get a little bit closer. Now, a couple of things I did see also. Some of you may or may not be aware of a post-apocalyptic novel. I think it came out in the 90s, maybe late 80s, called maybe 88. The Last Ship. I know, Scott, you're familiar with that.
Yeah, I have a copy. I've read it.
And I know, I remember you're not that fond of it, but
it is a bit Melvillian in its excruciating detail and plotting. There's something about novels set on the ocean that, because the ocean is a featureless plain, except when it tries to kill you in a storm, they feel that it's okay for the novel to be a featureless plain for vast quantities of time until the plot shows up.
You'll be glad to know that I believe TNT has what's not the term? Not licensed, not sanctioned. What
Bought the rights to it?
Not bought the rights. Option, thank you. 10 episodes for a post-apocalyptic TV show based on The Last Ship, produced by everybody's favorite Michael Bay.
Oh, good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm thrilled. I'm not saying the story of the last ship is bad at all, but it is a phone book, and I suggest that perhaps it did not need to be a phone book. That it was in need of some editing.
Yes.
Now, on the other hand, 10 episodes. Good. I would hope that they fill it in with more stories than they're just in the book.
Exactly. So
but they can do something with it. There's some very cool things in the last ship.
and we can expect that in 2014. Now, another post-apocalyptic movie that I saw come out is called Snowpiercer. Apparently, it's set in the future. There was a failed experiment to stop global warming, and an ice age comes and kills a vast majority of the population off, except for
Good job, science.
Exactly. Except for the inhabitants of the Snowpiercer. Basically, it's some kind of supersonic train that travels around the globe.
What?
Yep. Yes.
Sorry. A supersonic train that travels around the globe. On what exactly? After the
This
ice
is
age?
sounding like an unholy hybrid between the Highwayman and Supertrain.
Oh
Well,
my God!
It's powered by a sacred perpetual motion machine. I'm just reading to you what it says on the description of the movie, okay?
Uh-huh.
Wait a minute. A sacred perpetual motion machine on a super train. Are you sure this wasn't written by Ayn Rand?
Sacred perpetual motion. I'm sorry, engine. Okay, engine.
I'm just saying both those things turn up in Atlas Shrugged. So maybe this is like the objectivist's post-apocalypse novel.
It might. And their description ends with a class system evolves on the train, but a revolution brews. So
it's the objectivists.
yeah.
It's the objectivists again. God damn it.
So
They ruin everything, including the apocalypse.
Yes. So I just thought that was an interesting bit, like, wow, post-apocalypse on a train. So I've never seen that before. So
wasn't there a British TV series that begins with some people on a train that is caught in a tunnel, and the apocalypse happens at both ends of the tunnel collapse, and they miss the fallout and everything because they're trapped on this train in a tunnel and then dig their way out?
I don't know if there's a British show like that, but there is a Japanese comic book called Dragon Head where that happens. A bullet train gets caught in a tunnel during some sort of disaster. I'm 3 volumes in. They still haven't revealed exactly what that disaster is, but like 3 students are the only people to survive the crash, and they eventually dig their way out and are trying to get back to their homes in this.
Now, is it anime or is it manga?
It's manga. There may be an anime version, but I'm only familiar with the manga.
I have to ask this question, William.
Mm-hmm.
How much upskirt is there?
Actually, looking back at it, I don't think there's any. It's
very, thank God. Oh, that's awesome then. The one thing that always puts me off is the weird Japanese fetish with white cotton undies that we have to put up with.
It's
every
very serious.
Goddamn story. Good.
It's very serious. There is one pervert character, but it's not played for comedic effect. He is very quickly established as a villain and is an antagonist that has to be confronted.
Okay, good. Good to hear.
And the last bit of in the news is actually related to our topic of post-apocalyptic gaming. If those of you who were not aware, tomorrow releases Metro Last Light, the sequel to the video game Metro 2033.
A beautiful game. A game that is absolutely just gorgeous to look at, even if it is a bit of a railroad.
Well, it is in a subway system, so ha!
Yeah,
but
but it's still an absolutely gorgeous post-apocalyptic game. It looks great.
That game. And we've mentioned it before on the show because we talked about currencies and we talked about bullets, being the currency. Yeah. So my copy is arriving from Amazon tomorrow, so I'll definitely try to get a little of that in and maybe report about it a little bit next week. But yeah, I love that series. This thing was a very good game. I've read the novel that it was based off of. I actually like the story, the direction of the story better in the video game than the actual novel.
I'm just happy with any Russian or any foreign apocalypse we can get our hands on, because it's a yeah, sure. It's a very lively literary genre here in the English speaking world. We got plenty of British apocalypse. We got plenty of American apocalypse. But damn, it is tough to get apocalypse from overseas.
Yeah.
Anytime we get some, whatever little scraps we can get are great.
Exactly. We don't get much of it. So that's coming out tomorrow.
Subject for another show. Moving along.
Okay. Now we're going to talk about apocalyptic gaming. Now again, it could, we could be talking about board games, video games, you name it. Now, I know the answer to this, and I know Scott knows the answer to this because I told him. Unless he, hey, I know, thank you. Unless he found something older. I don't know, William. Do you know the oldest apocalyptic game out there? At least that I know of.
I couldn't name it, but I bet it's going to turn out to be something by H.G. Wells.
That dirty bastard did make a lot of games.
Yep.
When nobody was looking, he made a lot of games. But that is not correct. He made a bunch of miniatures games. What was it called?
Little War. And,
Little Wars.
There's Little Wars and Floor games. I think are the two he's most known for.
Now, what I found, and again, I could be wrong, but as far as I know, the oldest apocalyptic game out there was Nuclear War. That the card game, which is now printed by Flying Buffalo and our friend Rick Loomis, that originally was printed, the first copy, in 1965.
Let's see if I can make that go. Can we see that? No, it's a terrible image.
That's a terrible image. That's a later editions. I remember I've seen the original ones. It's a much smaller box, and that was done by Douglas Malwicki, I believe his name is. Again, I've said this 100 times. Terrible with names. So,
yeah.
If you're listening, I'm sorry.
No, we're not sorry you're listening. We want you to listen.
I'm sorry that we're mastering their names. So, for those of you who may or may not know, Nuclear War is just a simple card game. It's basically all the countries fighting against each other to try to.
Is that the original box?
Let me highlight that. That might be. I don't know.
Just pulling out images out of Google.
That could be. Now, it's as simple. You play the different countries. You start off in the peaceful phase, and then you you go to war. And the point is, nobody usually wins because usually everybody annihilates each other. and it's a game that's like a conveyor belt system of placing cards and revealing missile systems and warheads or peace cards and playing stuff. So I mean, it's a fun game. I play the tournament every year at Gen Con that Rick runs. So as far as I know, that's the oldest post-apocalyptic game. Again, I could be wrong. If somebody could tell me any different, please do. So that's our fans out there, because I'm sure the internet trolls will tell me I'm wrong. So
I will have to throw this up. I don't know if we can read this very well, but that's the spinner from the original game. The very first game had a spinner to determine how whether or not your bomb did more effects. It was a dud warhead. And I believe, if I remember correctly, if you use the 100 megaton weapon and you get there was an effect that's like triple the yield. Oh yes, that's it. Explodes nuclear stockpile, triple the yield. The result in the game was, of course, that you destroyed the planet. And you could actually kill everybody completely.
Everybody loses. So
there's a number of options in Nuclear War where it was all about killing everybody, like Zippy, the super virus.
Yeah.
Which would keep killing people even after the country that released it is gone. It would just keep the virus just keeps orbiting the board until everybody's dead. Which is, again, awesome.
Now, one of the other earlier games that I've encountered and I actually have a hold of, it's another board game put up by the long defunct SPI games. They did a lot of war games back in the 70s and early 80s. There was probably the first zombie game, the Dawn of the Dead game by SPI.
Oh yes, the one in the mall.
Yes, the one that took place in the mall. So I got a copy. I have my own copy of it here. It was shrink wrapped, but of course I had to open it and look at it because I'm just like that. I don't care about I've released a lot of my collecting bug out into the universe. So I'm like, whatever. I just if I own it, I want to touch it and look at it. So So we got the SPI and another board. I'm kind of talking about some board games first. Just because it's some things I have. Now, I know Scott remembers. William, do you remember Uquinto games? They were called album games. They came out in the 70s and early 80s.
I think they're sadly they're probably a bit before my time. I don't think I've heard of them before.
Uquinto games. They were called album games because basically they were set up like an album. Vinyl records. So
yeah.
So there was one called Attack of the Mutants. Now, this game, it's like you're basically, there's this devastated planet. You're the scientist, and you're making this, robot, and you're defending, this board here, and you're preventing the mutants. It's kind of just like a defender game. Like you build your defenses and you defend against it. I remember the game because there was advertisements all over the place for this game in back of comic books in the 80s.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's where I remember seeing it for the first time, is maybe in the back of, Famous Monsters of Filmland, or maybe it was in the back of Starlog or something like that. Is where I first saw it, along with Cosmic Encounter.
Yeah, advertisements for that. And like Attack of the Mutants, it was very enticing. It was like this yellow cover, this page, and there was a little bar up top with an image, and it showed like this robot, this cheap ass looking robot with an M16, and there's just bullets flying out of it. There's a scientist there with a slide roller looking at something, and there's like the heroine running up towards the scientist, and the army guy running behind him, and there's like all these mutants walking down the hallway. So. As a 13-year-old child, I found it very intriguing.
Well, I'm looking at one of the box covers, and yeah, it's like it's like right out of an AIP movie poster.
Yeah, yeah. That's one I never owned it. Mr. Wallace's copy remains unpunched. We are sort of hesitant to bust its cherry to play it because it is so gorgeous. But
actually, they have it on Vassal. So I was thinking about maybe we should get a game of learn how to use Vassal, get it installed, and play it on Vassal.
I got no objections to this plan. I have no objections to this plan whatsoever.
And another board game. Anybody jump at any time if you guys are better. Another game that I've actually, I don't mean to dominate, but I just have some things, interesting things to put out. There was a game that came out in 1986 by Milton Bradley, and I've actually played this because a friend of mine actually had a copy of it. Thunder Road.
Ah, yes. Yes, the Mad Max cash-in.
The Mad Max cash-in. It was two long
boards. Let me see if I can find that, an image of that online. Because I remember the cover.
BoardGameGeek.com's got a couple.
Yeah, there you go.
It's got this long board, these two boards, these rows that you keep on leapfrogging, and you have these vehicles and these little helicopters, and you're just basically trying to knock each other off the map. It's very, very simple, very, 12 and under type of game, but you know what? Damn it, I had to play it. Just to say I've played it.
I never. Now, that one actually came with actual cars, not just like board game pieces.
Oh, like actual little plastic cars and a little plastic gyrocopter guy, Which, speaking of that, I was just actually playing on my Xbox this weekend, Spy Hunter 2.
All right,
Nice.
here we go. Check this out in the screen share department. This is actually quite sexy.
All right, show it to us. Show us how sexy it is.
There you go. There's the map, and you just keep putting the map down in front of the map, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
You just keep laying the pieces. It goes along, and yes, they have, I guess, 3 or 4 types of cars and different color patterns. And yes, that's Thunder Road.
Yes, very, definitely a young game, but hell, like I said, I had to play it because I had to play it. But I was saying was about Spy Hunter 2, the arcade game. It was Mad Max because there was a guy in a gyrocopter, Wes on a motorcycle, and other like cars trying to run you off the road. Because I didn't realize this because I was playing it, and I'm like, oh my god, it wasn't like the original one, which is like supposed to be a spy with the cars. It's like this is Mad Max, the game.
Let's see if I can pull up. I think this is an early edition of Thunder Road, of the box from Thunder Road. But
that was the American edition. The European edition actually has a guy with like goggles on that was put out in the UK. So
yeah, okay. I was kind of hoping it was the, it was the original. Oh no, I'm doing a terrible job running this, but oh well.
I'm looking at some promotional. I'm not sure if this is promotional art or the back of the box, but it's got this photo of these 4 kids playing the game, and they could not be the 4 most clean cut.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Nothing post-apocalyptic about them.
Yeah, these kids are not mutants. I think. Not at all. Those kids right there. Oh, we're having such a good time. Killing everyone.
They're so clean. They're so clean and 80s looking. So
hook up the board, Tommy.
Let's play Thunder Road. So
here's the oil tanker.
So yeah, these are just some of the board games I've encountered. I mean, there's a slew, as we all know. There's a slew of games out there. Mostly, it's very zombie heavy now. Board games, for apocalyptic games. You got like Zompocalypse, and you've had zombies out since 2001. There's just a lot of them out there.
Well, you go to Board Game Geek like you suggested, and you're going to find a whole pile of crap that maybe you didn't need that's new, plus a ton of older stuff. If you're going to do some of these games where there's plenty of the old punched cardboard counter games from SPI where it's Objective Moscow or Invasion America. Which eventually, and then they also did, what was it, Fortress America? Who was
Fortress America?
Fortress America was Milton Bradley, but the SPI version was like Invasion America, I think it was, or maybe it was Invasion USA. There were a lot of these sort of games from the 70s and early 80s that were World War III, that were full to gap sort of confrontation in Europe, but they weren't necessarily apocalyptic in that they were, modern combat games of the Reds versus the free world. That was the basic deal just about every time that I can remember.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of really apocalyptic stuff. I got one image here I'm gonna share for this game called World War III.
I remember that. I remember seeing that.
World War III, yeah, and it was mostly a game of. It really was sort of a game of trying to overrun the other players. Kind
of like supremacy or something,
Yeah, trying to overrun the other players' means of production. Now, I will note that I was poking around trying to find some more information about it, and somebody said that the original rule book had a suggestion that if at any point during the game players finally reach for their nuclear weapons to, break a stalemate, that the players should merely douse the map with kerosene and set it on fire.
I believe that was referenced in an issue of Murphy's Rules. I've heard that before.
Yeah, just set the fucker on fire because that's what you're going to get. And I thought, all right, that's worth a mention. Now, there was another, maybe somebody else out there in La La Land can help me, but there was another sort of Avalon Hill bookcase game style, big, serious nuclear war game I remember as a kid. And my parents got it for me. I don't know why. It was way too complex for maybe a 10-year-old, These are the same people who got me like there was a board game from Avalon Hill or SPI called like The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. Huge world-girding game. And as a kid, I'm like, I don't know. Thanks, Mom, I guess. But
well, at least they were thinking about you, and they knew who you were.
That's true. Even if I was too dumb for the games they got, it's not like they got me a copy of Mousetrap or Clue or something.
I love Clue.
It's the only game where the murderer can win by proving that they committed the murder.
So there was another nuclear war game, and the reason it really stood out for me is that it was this game of nuclear confrontation in the United States and the Soviet Union. It was a board game. It had a very abstracted map because it was just about, there was like a box for bombers in transit and another map for, submarines prepared to launch. And then you had all these targets in the United States and Russia that could take hits. But what really I remember about it is that the game was set up so you could play it in different periods. You could play it as the Cuban Missile Crisis, 1962, where, the Soviets just get plastered. And you could play it in... like 1973, the Arab-Israeli war gets out of control in 73, and you have another nuclear option. And then you've got then you go up to 80s, the 80s, and you can play it in different time periods, or like there's a 68 one for, Vietnam gets out of control. And so there were different time periods you could play it in, and in each time period, the game would have you select different weapon systems and different, capacities for both sides. And that kind of stood out for me as a rule mechanic that I really liked because it meant that the thing could evolve over time. You didn't have just one scenario. It's the modern age, the 80s or the 70s, whenever it was made. You could actually play, nuclear scenarios that were antiques. Again, like Cuba.
And if anybody knows what Scott's talking about and knows the name of it, send it our way so we can pass along to Scott. So
did they have any near future scenarios? Or?
Not that I remember in the game. I don't. I mean, if you wanted near future, you played Objective Moscow or Invasion America, I guess. There's also some board games out there on Board Game Geek. I just saw there's a World War IV out there, which is a very heavy miniatures, very heavy plastic piece game where you play the nations that have risen up after the nuclear war, fighting for supremacy of the world, and it is very apocalyptic because while your country is spreading out on the map, you're running over mutants and raiders and scavengers and things like that while you're creating your empire.
Nice.
Well, let's talk about some more paper and pencil gaming as opposed to digital. Analog as opposed to digital gaming, as I like to call it. Let's talk a little about RPGs, role-playing games.
What's the granddaddy? Well, actually, here I'm going to be a dick and show. Ta-da! There's my screen share for Fourth World War. Again, covered in mutants and ruins and looking. I think I did that. Did it work?
Yeah. It showed.
All right. Well, that's good.
Now the granddaddy of all. I think the first. I don't know why I am a. Can you even see me at this point?
Yeah, I can. You're coming through fine on my end. Are you getting some lag or some freeze?
Yeah, I'm getting a little. I'm seeing my symbol, my placeholder, which is kind of unusual. But oh, there we go. Okay, as far as I know, the first RPG that was apocalyptic was put out by TSR in 1976. Anybody?
Gamma World.
Oh, no,
you
sir.
tricked me. Metamorphosis Alpha.
William, you lose. But Metamorphosis Alpha, 1976, the June of 76, the precursor to Gamma World, which came out in 1978.
Yeah.
Now, for those who might not know Metamorphosis Alpha, and I want to talk about those games because that kind of springboards, because the games that you were working on with Skirmisher for Mutant Future, which is a modern, a more contemporary, it's a contemporary post-apocalyptic game, which is basically one of those throwback games which goes back to the simpler mechanics that Gamma World originally had. Now, Metamorphosis Alpha, just in brief, is apocalyptic. Again, it's an isolated apocalypse because the Metamorphosis Alpha was a generation ship that went too long, people died, and just a whole different population of mutations grew on the ship. So it's a contained world,
Yeah, heavily influenced by Robert Heinlein's Orphans of the Sky.
Or Orphans of the Sky and oh God, what are the other two books? I can't remember.
That's the one I always remember as being the big post-apocalyptic. The the generation ship that now the inhabitants think that the generation ship is the world, is all that there is.
Well, there's also what's his name? Harlan Ellison did one as well about a generation ship.
Phoenix Without Ashes, which was also I think it was Star Lost, was the television series based on that premise.
I remember Star Lost with Keir Dullea, right?
Yep.
Oh boy, yeah.
Where the Amish guy finds out his whole world is just one small part of a spaceship.
Yeah, you can spot some videos, some clips of Star Lost on YouTube, including like the opening sequence with the generation ship with all the domes.
Yeah,
like the domes out of Silent Running, with the little forests or communities in each dome.
Yeah, at one point, the whole series was on YouTube. But that was like 3 years ago. It's probably been pulled by now.
I think that may be one of the few places you could have seen it. I've never seen it at our wild and crazy Scarecrow Video up here in Seattle, which has everything on DVD or VHS, or even better, foreign format VHS that they'll rent you the player so you can watch it. Nice. Yeah, I've never seen Star Lost on there, but I remember it, reading about it in Starlog magazine back in the early '80s.
Yeah. So that was Metamorphosis Alpha, which kind of started the whole thing, which was done by James Ward, and then he came out with Gamworld, which is why it
was the Starship Warden.
Exactly.
He named the starship after himself.
Then he came out with Gamma World. First edition came out in '78, which to this day, again, Gamma World, my favorite game. I say it a million times. Again, we're going to dedicate a whole show just to Gamma World at one point.
It's a game that does not die. It's like every 5 years or so, a new edition comes out. I've got the Alternity edition right here.
That was, I think that came out in '99, I want to say.
I think you're right. I'm checking the publisher's information right now.
Or is it '98?
They don't have a copyright notice at the beginning of this thing.
Nice.
I forgot to copyright.
No, it's 2000.
I was
off by decades.
This might have been the last Alternity product, now that I think about it.
I think it was, and I think that's why they came out with it on Alternity, because that is the fourth iteration of the game. There was another iteration that came out, and the second edition came out in '80. The third edition came out in 1985. 1990 saw the fourth edition. Alternity was the fifth edition. Sixth edition came out in about 2003 or 4 by White Wolf on their Sword and Sorcery offshoot, and then of course
and say what you like about the White Wolf edition. Compared to the next edition, it does look like a work of genius.
Oh yeah, the edition that's based off the fourth edition rules is just a steaming pile of mutant poop. Okay, I can't rant enough about how much I dislike it, and I won't do that right now.
Poop.
It's hoop poop. There you go. Thank you. It is hoop poop. So Gamworld's been prevalent throughout all the years, and there was a lot of other games, especially in the '80s, which was the heyday. I think the heyday of role-playing games. There were so many companies, so many role-playing games out there, because it was back when, before they said there has to, well, except for Steve Jackson came out with GURPS, but I think in the 2000s. We came up with this whole thing. Everybody's like, "Oh, we got to have a universal system, and every game is going to fit into this one system," which is bullshit. Different games, different genres work differently with different rule sets. That's why there was different rule sets. Now, some of them are good, some of them are bad. But in the '80s, every game basically had its own rules. Now we had a lot of games that came out. We had the Morrow Project, which came out in '80. You had the Aftermath, which came out in 1981.
Oh, did you ever read any of Mutant Chronicles?
No, not familiar with that one.
Which it started as a European role-playing game. It was brought over to America. It's been several iterations. I think there's like a new version that's being kickstarted right now. Mutant Chronicles, there was an apocalypse on Earth, and all these mega corporations fled the Earth, and then nuked the Earth as they left to make sure nothing would follow them, and then colonized the solar system, and then another apocalypse happened solar system-wide as these things got released, and so they had to rebuild themselves again, and now another apocalyptic age is starting. So you're like 3 apocalypses in. But the thing is, despite the fact that mutant is in the title and it takes place after several apocalypses, there are no mutants in the game.
Oh, thanks.
False fucking advertising.
Well, it's not entirely because it has a complicated publishing system. It was originally a supplement of a post-apocalyptic role-playing game called like the Mutant World, but it just used the Mutant World rules, but it was a space opera setting, and for whatever reason, the mutant name stuck to it when it was translated into English.
They made a movie out of it too. They made a very, very bad movie.
Unlike
that movie, has two things out of the game source material, and the rest is just action movie bullcrap.
Yeah.
With Ron Perlman.
With Ron Perlman
nice.
and
or
James Purefoy. No, not James Purefoy. Thomas Jane. That poor bastard. It's not a good movie.
now, unlike the game which came out in 1989 called Mutazoids, which actually has mutants in it. I don't know if you know that. A very small publishing house put out this game called Mutazoids. The tagline is it is the year. It is the year. It says it. It is the year 2073. 6 years after the world was swept by an accidental release of the man-made plague virus. Society's collapse was a brief one. Brief because the survivors remembered the luxuries of the early 21st century and want them back. So, it's this game where it's there's mutants in the wild. There's a dystopian city. I never play. I mean, I got all the stuff for it because I collect post-apocalyptic RPGs, but it doesn't look like a very good game. But I had to collect it anyway. Then of course there's Wizards, which came out in 1992, based off the movie.
There was a Wizards RPG?
Really?
Yes. You didn't know this? That there's a Wizards RPG based off of Ralph Bakshi's Wizards movie, 1977?
No, and I'm shocked, because I love that movie.
Which is available on Blu-ray, by the way. But
yes, because you really want to need that Blu-ray so you can see all the ways that Ralph Bakshi just colored over cells from the movie Battle of the Bulge to put, glowing eyes on his Nazis.
Of course.
But it worked. Kind of.
No, that part didn't. I'm going to go and make a stand here and say that Necron 99 works just fine. I have no gripes with Necron 99. On the other hand, some of the other shitty animation is shitty animation. It's the rotoscope stuff that annoys me. Where he'd throw in scenes from Alexander Nevsky, or again, Patton or whatever, and we'd have to suffer through that shit.
What about that one mutant soldier that has the disco ball shield?
Nice.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
All I know is Scott, you're a hater. Okay, that's all I gotta say. How dare you hate on Wizards? But
let's see if I can fix this. No, man.
But there was a role-playing game came out in 1992. There was actually 5 or 6 things produced by it. I got it in the game closet. I didn't have a chance to drag my entire collection of apocalyptic gaming out, which we'll do in the future. But yeah, Wizards 1992, and of course, when did Twilight 2000 come out?
Twilight 2000 is like
86.
80. No,
5?
I'd have to go look. I had just hit college, so it's probably 84 to 85, somewhere in that range.
Which we know is one of Scott's favorites.
If only we had, a device with which we could look these things up on the, in a format that we could look at on our computers.
Well, I just like going off the cuff and seeing if we could remember stuff. But
that's fine. I was trying to get an image of Necron 99 because, Necron 99
in Twilight 2000. Again, what was the closing line of the introduction on the back?
Oh, the closing line was good luck, you're on your own.
You're on your own.
where your ragtag NATO division has finally been overrun by the Reds, and the last sounds you hear on the radio before all you hear are Russian and Polish voices on the other side of the line is "Good luck, men. You're on your own," and that's it.
Yeah, well, again, we could probably dedicate a whole show to Twilight 2000 as well.
Twilight 2000. Besides, Frank's not here.
Yeah, we'll get Frank on there. Frank Fry
wrote a bunch of stuff for it back in the 80s. He wrote Small Arms Guide. He wrote some material in the RDF source book. He wrote a scenario set in Iran called King's Ransom. And he wrote The Black Madonna, which is one of my favorite scenarios for Twilight 2000. They're all really just first rate. They're all, well, Frank got one thing wrong. I always love teasing him about it. In their alternate history that they're writing in the 80s, right? It's the Iran-Iraq wars going on, and Frank and many other people at GDW looked at this and went, there's no way the Ayatollahs are going to be able to survive this. I mean, they sent the flower of their youth off to die in piles in front of the Iraqi lines, you know, like it's World War I all over again, and they're getting gassed and they're getting mowed down in human wave attacks. You know, obviously the mullahs will have to go back into the mosque, and some other form of government will rise up in Iran that's less crazy. And Frank was wrong on that one. I mean, all those piles of corpses did was make the Iranians even fucking crazier, frankly. So, sorry about that, Frank. You were almost there, but
not quite. Now, so that's that's some of the classic ones. I mean, there's there's some there's a lot of different modern ones out there. I mean, there's, like I said, there's the Mutant Future, which I know Will you do work on that one a little bit, right?
Well, I do the technical editing.
Oh, okay. So you're not like Chris Van Deelen, who's been on the show before, does a lot of some of the source material writing. So you're just you're the guy behind the scenes on that.
Yeah, I'm mainly. I'm making sure everything is clean, concise, conforms to whatever else we've got published, looks good on the page, so that and that when it gets turned into a PDF, it's going to be the best most functional PDF.
So yeah, so they do. They do. Skirmisher does. They have like the Wasteland Weekly, or is it Wisdom of the Wasteland, which comes out weekly, which is again, it's throwback game. You can fit the stuff into almost any role-playing game. Gamma World. It's very Gamma World style, so very kind of old school. So I'm very in favor of that.
We're forgetting two games that need to be mentioned because they're early 80s games. We completely have forgotten about, let's see here, we completely forgot about Fantasy Games Unlimited's Aftermath.
I mentioned Aftermath, 1981.
Yeah, we talked about it. I'm sorry, I only caught that you talked about it beforehand. So there's Some Refuse to Die in the Aftermath. And Aftermath is, was way over complex, like many of
Super
games. Yeah.
Super over complex. I had the game as a 13-year-old kid. I'm like, okay, I figured out how to make characters.
Yeah.
And that was about it.
Is that the one where there's like a manual for making your character, then like a manual for combat, then a manual for weapons, and they're all like cross-referenced with each other?
Book 1, 2, and 3. Yes, sir.
Yes,
I have heard about that.
Aftermath was way overcomplicated, but if Fantasy Games Unlimited had that problem with Bushido. They're the guys who made Bushido.
Space Opera.
In fact, oh yeah, here we go. Here's actually a fucking image of the three different books, all laid out, there with the box set, and then the little tiny adventure book, and then these three different books, basic rules.
Oh yeah, it was a lot. So, but they really had really sexy ads that were in Dragon magazine, which made me want to buy it. So.
Yes, I did. That was what they specialized in, was sexy ads. I mean, I bought Aftermath as a kid. I bought Daredevils, which was their pulp adventure game when Indiana Jones was first hitting it big, and I guess it was '82. Yeah, I bought that too. But the games were sort of like daunting in their complexity. But as daunting as Aftermath was, nothing was more daunting than Morrow Project.
Which, again, I mentioned that before 1980. So the Morrow Project, which they had a Kickstarter to release their 4th edition recently. Yeah.
So the Morrow Project, again, was sort of, I don't know, it developed a reputation in the 80s of being the game that if you wanted to consult 8 different tables to resolve one gunshot wound, that was the game for you. That was the game you wanted to be playing, because they have a table for everything. It's and the thing is though, with Mario Project to me was always more compelling than Aftermath. Aftermath was a very I don't remember if any two books for Aftermath used the same apocalypse.
Nope.
Like you're down in the ruins of Sydney has a different apocalypse than
Chicago, Sydney, Littleton, Arizona. It's everything is different. 10 years, 20 years, 100 years. Every scenario was different.
Yeah.
Well, it was very open.
Yeah.
And here are some setting ideas. Make your own world. That was their approach.
Yeah. No, there's no canon in it whatsoever. Meanwhile, over at Mario Project, say what you like about them, the one thing they did have was kind of a compelling story.
Yeah.
Even if they screwed, even if the rules were mucked up, I always thought that their story was their basic idea that this was this project designed to save humanity from the upcoming nuclear war, a private project, not a government project, and that it has gone snafu. And you are then found, you're looking for Prime Base, this Shangri-La, you and the other teams. That really worked for me for some reason. And it was set, it was set 200 years after the apocalypse. So you got
actually I think it was 150.
But it's more than a century afterwards.
Oh yeah.
So you've got this sort of
everything is devolved enough, and everything is kind of rebuilt again, so where it's kind of like, well, you're going to help rebuild, but you know what? It's already kind of rebuilt itself.
Yeah. The problem is what has come up in its place.
Yeah.
So that Mario Project was very compelling. Not the least of which because one thing Mario Project always seemed to have a lot of. They had some. They liked the Landmaster. Did you notice that? The Landmaster from
Damnation Alley?
Damnation
Yes.
Alley. There's a couple of vehicles that turn up in their vehicle handbook very early on that are like either the Landmaster just completely cribbed right out, or it's the Landmaster on steroids. Mario Project liked the idea of tooling around the wasteland in a big honking vehicle, kind of like the War Wags from Deathlands or the Landmaster from Damnation Alley.
Okay.
That seemed to really appeal to them.
What was that?
looking up. Oh,
Go ahead, Will.
I found some information here. I don't know if you guys can verify this, but I'm finding a website that claims that the first and second edition of the Mario Project were released the same year.
Huh.
That's possible.
That wouldn't be impossible considering.
Is it the Supply Bunker website?
Actually, no. This is Wikipedia.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a pretty good Mario Project site called the Supply Bunker, which has full details about the game and the history and all the like fan-made stuff. But moving off of RPGs, it's getting close to the top of the hour, so we're running a little short on time. I don't want to go too much more than an hour. Electronic gaming. Let's talk about that a little bit. As far as I know, the first, technically, the first, role-playing post-apocalyptic game could have been really, or Wasteland was the biggest one, 1988.
I think Wasteland is the one that I always remember.
Yeah,
Unless there were some text-based adventures I don't remember. Wasteland was the very, very first.
Or technically, could we say Missile Command was an apocalyptic game?
Wow.
Well, I guess it depends on whether or not you lost.
Yeah.
You always lose at Missile Command. Let's be honest. And no matter how well you do, they just throw more missiles at you until you lose.
So maybe. But again, Wasteland, which was the precursor to that everybody says is the precursor to the Fallout series.
It is. It's the guys who designed Wasteland didn't have the rights to Wasteland, so when they wanted to make another Apocalypse game, they made Fallout 1 and Fallout 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then
now they've
3 and Vegas. We don't need to get into too much detail about Fallout, because if you don't know Fallout in the series by now and being a gamer, then you know what, you've been living in a closet. So
I'm going to make a shout out that one of my favorite things I ever did with Fallout was give it to my brother.
Oh yeah.
And then have the marvelous experience of getting to relive the game vicariously vicariously through him running into shit and going, "Holy crap! This game just doesn't end. There's another quest. There's another location."
And that was 3, right?
3, and he just got New Vegas for his birthday, and he's already learned that the Legion are dickbags. So
now,
well into it.
But speaking of Mad Max, did you know that for Super NES there was a Mad Max game that came out in 1990?
Oh,
I believe I remember that.
Now,
And
wow.
yeah, and let me read you the descriptor for that one. The object is to survive life after the end of the world by battling survivalists and collecting valuable food, water, gasoline, and money in order to continue racing into the desert wasteland that lies beyond.
So it's just pointless.
It's pointless.
It's utterly.
It's
The road never ends.
battle after battle after battle, arena to get more shit to keep on going to the next battle. So
There was also a Twilight 2000 computer game.
yes, there was.
The Black Baron of Warsaw that always stood out primarily because the mechanics of the game were such that if you wanted your characters, you could design characters like a team of like, I don't know, you can only take out a certain number of people at a time on a mission. Maybe it was like 4, but you could have a pool of a bunch of characters, to draw from. It became very, very obvious very fast that if you wanted a character to do anything, they could only have one skill. If the game had like 10 skills, but if you spread the points out, a little mechanics, a little rifle, he'd never be able to succeed at anything. So you just had to have these idiot savant characters who could only do one thing well.
Nice.
For every mission.
Now, yeah, and there's a lot of there's a lot of apocalyptic gaming out, a lot of zombie games out, because zombies have become the flavor of the month, or flavor of the decade. So there's Left 4 Dead, Riptide, Dead Island. There's a ton of those zombie games out there. So again, which are apocalyptic. Just real quick here, another post-apocalyptic role-playing game that I thought was a great game when it came out in 1998 was All Flesh Must Be Eaten.
Oh, yeah. Got my copy. First edition, first printing.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's not a damn thing wrong with that. Thank you very much.
I like the unit system. They were on the whole zombie thing before it became pop culture, and I think they did. I'm surprised that when it became the pop culture, they didn't do better. Like, it didn't rise up even more. Like, it just kind of was flat.
Well, I know they kind of hit some setbacks because there were like 3 source books. I think this was like in 2000. There were 3 source books that they had together that were almost ready to go, and then like their copy editor or whatever, his house was broken into and his computers were stolen, and all the files were on the computer.
Well, actually, you know what? That it wasn't the copy editor. That was actually George himself, the owner of the company.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. Ow.
Yeah, because that was, I think that was out in, where was that? I think it was out in was he out in California? I don't remember where it was, but I remember him telling me that story at Gen Con once.
That is why I always email 2 copies of everything I'm working on to myself every night when I'm done.
Because it'll be on the cloud, so.
It'll be somewhere.
It'll be somewhere, as opposed to like some crackheads. Oh, I think I can get a rock for this. And you put 300 hours of your life into getting this goddamn project done.
You see, but I like to imagine, though, that the computer got pawned, and that the guy at the pawn shop is like a huge RPG fan, and like, this is his ultimate treasure. He'll never sell that computer because it has RPG source books that only he has in there.
Or better yet,
that is fantasy role playing right there.
Yeah, I think you got a point there. That is some fantasy. Oh wow!
But it's a nice fantasy, and it warmed my heart hearing that. But one game because then we're going to wrap up, is one game I forgot to mention because we were speaking about Mad Max. Was how did we forget to mention a game by Steve Jackson that was popular for many years?
Oh yeah,
Car Wars.
Yeah. Which apparently is going to get a resurrection because of the Ogre Kickstarter for the Ogre Deluxe Editor's Edition.
Yeah.
So that's going to resurface. So that was post-apocalyptic gaming. I think I played it once. Back in the 80s.
Oh, I owned way too many sets of Car Wars. I had all of the old cardboard pieces, and we tried running it, at college what do you call it? Gaming groups, gaming societies. But damn, there's a game that really needed to be computerized.
Oh yeah, that game would do well as an app, computer or an app game right now. Yeah. And that's not to mention, again, electronic gaming. To mention, there's a lot of like Android and iPhone app games that are apocalyptic. There's Zombie Gunship. There's a lot of zombie ones. Z-Day, Z-Day Survivor. There's a ton of them out there because again, the apocalypse is kind of gone into not just zombies but pop culture in general. I think. What was
the nuclear war game that you found for the for PCs? It was like some.
Hold on, everybody. Oh shit.
It's really there's not a lot of clearance in the bunker at Ground Zero.
You mean this game that probably 2005 came out? You mean DEF-CON? This one, Scott?
Yeah, that's the one.
Which is basically, if you could see the picture there, it is basically War Games. You are basically it's War Games, the movie in a game. The countries has got the same graphics.
Yeah, that last part of the movie where the game plays, the computer plays all the simulations of how to fight a nuclear war, and it just keeps coming up, everyone dead at the end. It's all that shit. Now you get to play all that shit. The only one I remember is all the scenarios had these various things. One of them was called Turkish Surprise. I just remember that.
Is that kind of like a Turkish delight? I don't know. But
I don't know. It just I'm not sure you're going to be surprised by the Turks. But anyways, it's not delightful. But that was one of the scenarios.
Yeah, so DEF-CON 2006 that came out. It's still available by, I think it's Introversion Software, which actually did Darwinia, if you're familiar with that computer game. So it's a good little game. I think it's available on Steam now. It's available PC, Mac. It's a fun little game. I mean, I played it for a while. Then after a while, it does get a little like, okay, how many times can I nuke the world? So, but it is a cool game, But now it makes
How dare you, sir? How many times can I nuke the world?
I know.
You must have played it a shit ton. Holy crap!
I did. I played it a lot. But now, you know what? I might want to crack it out again. So, all right. So that's again, folks. This was a pretty broad discussion on post-apocalyptic gaming. A lot of us have played some of us hasn't. There's so much. There is so much out there. There was so much out there.
Yes, there is. I brought a whole stick.
Wait! Get him to plug his products.
Yes.
Oh, indeed, I should.
Yes, plug away. If it's
okay, so got a couple of things to plug. My most recent book that I've worked on, The Jester Dragon's Guide to Defects, through Skirmisher Publishing LLC, co-authored by myself, Michael Verhola. I did all the illustrations. Definitely check that out on DriveThruRPG.com. The OGL version's out now. We're going to have a Pathfinder version out very, very soon. We should have print copies at Comic Palooza in Houston, Texas, where I'm going to be in 2 weeks if you want to see me in person. Also, my group Kettlefish Productions, we're going to be doing special events and LARP events at conventions all over the country. So we're going to have events at Origins Game Fair. We're going to have events at Gen Con. We're going to have events at Comic Palooza. We're going to have events at Con on the Cob, with which is of course the convention for Andy Hopp, who's the creator of the post-apocalyptic RPG Lowlife. And let me see. Oh, and the other thing, I'm also the co-host of the Sequel Cast. www.sequelcast.com. It's a podcast where we review every movie in a franchise, one movie at a time. We're doing the Harry. Oh yes, and actually
that could be painful.
Oh, it can be. In fact, Planet of the Apes was our hardest one to get through, just because of the declining quality of the movies and the sheer number of movies. But hey, it's post-apocalyptic. We also covered Mad Max. So we've got two big post-apocalyptic franchises that we did. We are currently working through the Harry Potter franchise, which is now proving to be the most difficult one to get through, simply because there's like 8 damn movies.
Yeah.
And we'll probably have to do a special on the fan phenomenon. And my co-host, Matthew Shergi, he is going to be doing a live episode at LeakyCon in Portland.
All right.
That's going to be in a few weeks.
Yeah, well, me and Scott will be seeing William at Gen Con as well, because we're at the Gen Con Game Fair in Indianapolis every year, hawking our Lovecraft-based products.
Our tawdry wares. Our tawdry wares.
Merchandising!
Merchandising!
Where the real money from the movie is made.
And then, like I said, William and I are working on a post-apocalyptic game. Again, as we get a little bit closer and I get into production, we'll talk about it some more. So we're in it. We're really involved in. We're really in the the essence of the apocalypse. Because it's like we're designing something that's apocalyptic. We talk about it, we live it, we love it, we breathe it. So. All right, thank you, Will. So let's see here. We're going to do our quick round of last words. William, any last words?
Last word, like we barely scratched the surface. Although without going into too much detail, if you're looking for a really unconventional post-apocalyptic role-playing game, definitely check out Eclipse Phase. This was the coolest thing I found at Gen Con that year. An apocalypse happened that wiped out 90% of the human population, and all that survived are clones and post-human organisms that are trying to rebuild what's left of the solar system.
Nice. Thank you, Will. Scott?
My last word is, oh my God, we're going to do an entire show on Twilight 2000. Possibly 2 shows.
Oh yeah, we're going to do we're Gamma World again. We're going to be
1 per edition. We're doing 1 per edition.
Should I could do 2 just on the latest edition and how much I hate it. Because I'm a hater.
I don't know if we can handle like 2 half-hour shows of you stabbing yourself in the eyes with a ballpoint pen.
Half-hour shows? What are you, high? These are at least an hour. But
they're supposed to be half hours.
Yeah, we're trying, but not very hard.
No.
But so last words from me. Again, I don't got really much to add. We've said a lot this episode. Again, like I'm always telling people, I want you to please be socially media responsible. Okay, if you're watching this and you have friends who like the genre, please send them our way. Send them to the podcast. Have them, they can watch it on the YouTube site. They can see it on the blog. Like our Facebook page. Go to YouTube, watch it on YouTube. Like the YouTube, like it on YouTube. All the likes that you make on all these things do help. Bring it up. So and also share it. Share the wealth. Let other people know about it. Again, like I promised, I'm still working on getting the audio on the blog and then getting it hooked up to iTunes. Is just that I've been a little bit too busy lately. I was away at a show, and I'm moving in like 3 weeks. So I got a little bit too much going on to be able to focus on it completely. But once I get settled in, I'm gonna, I've enlisted some help with some friends who are also podcasters who've, done the integration with the iTunes, so I could get the audio up there for people, so you don't have to be forced to watch all our beautiful faces for an hour. You could just listen to our beautiful voices for an hour. So
melodic tones.
So again, share, let people know, get it out there. So. And that's all I got to say for this week, folks. What are we going to do next week? I don't know yet. Me and Mr. Glancy will talk during the week. We'll make a decision on what we're going to do. But hey, it's a surprise, just like the apocalypse, of what we're going to talk about. But you'll know before. Well, probably not much after we know. So what's that?
Oh my God, we forgot to talk about pandemic. Well, we'll see that for next time.
We'll save it next time. So. Folks, again, this is the Apocalypse Nerd. I want to thank you all for joining us this week, and anybody who's watching on the YouTube channel later, thank you. Thank you, William, for being with us. I appreciate your time. We'll get you on again. Scott, thank you as always, and thank you, me, because I don't know.
You're just so awesome.
I'm so awesome. I don't know.
You're so pretty and awesome.
I know. I was just going down the pictures, looking at everybody, thanking everybody. I'm like, oh wait, that's me. So.
And thank your evil monkey.
And thank the monkey. I swear that thing keeps moving every show. I don't know what's going on. But
I have an evil monkey here somewhere, but now he's hiding from me.
Because my evil monkey scared him. So
maybe it's an evil monkey.
It is an evil monkey, and it's not even mine. I don't know why it's here, but. So anyway, folks, again, thank you very much, and we will see you in our 2 weeks, Monday nights, in the Wastelands. Thank you very much.
All right, see ya.